I guess they don't really know I'm in the middle of doing a video. But anyways, let's talk today. Let's do this first.
Come on, Jess. Ready, set, real estate.
So today let's talk about what buyers can do to make the whole process smoother for themselves and their realtor. So I think one thing is obviously first and foremost, figuring out the financial situation. If they're getting a mortgage, making sure they have the pre-approval in place with their mortgage agent. If they need a mortgage agent and they don't know who to call, asking their realtor for recommendations. Having that all figured out first so they know exactly what they can spend, and also making sure when they're, because this seems to be a thing I find a lot, is if their mortgage agent tells them what they can purchase for, making sure that that also includes the down payment. So sometimes a mortgage agent will say, you know, you're approved for $500,000 and that's including their down payment.
Right.
Or sometimes they misunderstand and it's 500 plus their down payment.
Makes a huge
so
difference.
They could actually go up to 550 or whatever that number is. So verifying exactly what they can purchase, that will make it a lot easier. And also, I know that often buyers have to make sacrifices, but coming up with a wish list and like a must-have list. So if they wish to be in the country, but it doesn't have to be, maybe that would be, you know, on the wish list. And then if it absolutely has to have 3 bedrooms because of the amount of kids they have or whatever, then that would be a deal breaker for them. So those are a couple things that make it easier for sure. And also them knowing who they're committing to as a realtor, because oftentimes we'll have people that reach out to us for advice and they know numerous different realtors and they aren't really sure who they're going to work with. But if they actually take the time to sit down with the realtor and figure out who they actually want to work with, then it makes it a lot easier for everything, right? Because we all often have people, not clients, that we aren't really sure if they're going to actually work with us or not. And it's not in their best interest to be going around talking to numerous different agents, giving out all their personal information and whatnot, and their motivation and what they're approved for and whatnot. It makes sense for them to stick with somebody. So it makes it a lot easier for the person that they're planning on using to know that those people are planning on using you as their realtor. And it's going to make their life easier because they're not going to be getting messages from a bunch of different realtors that are waiting for them to be ready to help them. So they're going to avoid all that unnecessary conversation. Yeah,
those are like great points. It pretty much is most of what I was going to say. The big thing too is like what you said about, I actually had a client send this to me and it made me realize, hey, I should ask everyone for this, which is like the needs and wants kind of list. So they broke it down like 3 categories. One was what they really must have, like absolute must. So no houses with baseboard heat, or has to be a fenced yard for my dog, has to be a 2-story house, whatever it is. And then the highly preferreds would be like, prefer that the basement is not finished, so that way we can make it our own and we can kind of see if the space is good, like structurally, mechanically. It doesn't have to be like that though, but we'd really like that. Or has a detached workshop because my husband is a welder and he wants like the shop or whatever, but it doesn't have to be. You can always add one if the lot's good enough, stuff like that. And then the more softer stuff too, those 3 categories. Softer things could just be like, you know, it's fairly turnkey, that'd be nice, but if it's not at all, we'll still probably consider it, but we would prefer that. The kitchen to be like kind of updated and have backsplash, or the light fixtures to be modern, the style. Those things help because what I do is like once we've done the hard criteria, the absolute parameters of the search, like I need at least 2 beds, 1 bath, city of Peterborough, garage is not a must, no condos, freehold only. Like you narrow that down and it's like 41 houses under 650. Then once I know that, as we're seeing houses, I'll learn a lot, but having that sheet and us seeing houses will really prime me to put me in a position. So like when I see this house that comes up, I know that you really prefer it, even though I'm always someone that would promote you seeing more houses than less. So I don't want to like narrow it down too much, but at least it really teaches me about your preferences, which do matter. So that would help the real estate agent, sending even a Word doc to spend, you know, some time and write those things out. Another thing could be your availability. So if you work like 9 to 5 Monday to Friday and you're free after 5, then it's good for the agent to know that you can do showings in the evenings or maybe on like your lunch break because you work in town and it's not a far drive. And so yeah, kind of like your schedule. And then two, even like preference in terms of like communication. So if you don't really want your husband to be in a group chat with the agent because with the way his work is, getting those texts could be really annoying or something, and he's just going to go through you on everything, that's okay. I would always prefer everyone on the same page in a message, but knowing the preferred way to communicate, whether it's email, Facebook, text message, WhatsApp, whatever, calling, and that way we know how to communicate those houses over to you, and when we can see them, what we're seeing for buyers, that would be like a big part of it. But I think everything you said is like the primary points too.
Yeah, I think what you said about the communication is huge. So getting on the same page with that, whether it's in like a WhatsApp group chat or email or whatever, so that nothing's missed, is going to make it a lot easier for everyone. Also, the buyers letting the realtors know how they want to be notified about houses. So some people want to be set up to receive emails of houses and they'll let their realtor know when they want to see something. Other people want their realtor to check and message them when they think something suitable has come up. And some people don't want to look at houses on the internet at all. They're like, just call me if you see like 3-bedroom bungalows for $600,000 or under.
Especially older folks.
So that is really important because every realtor does that so differently. So some people want one thing and someone else wants another thing. So making sure there's no disappointment in how that's handled is eliminated by telling the realtor, and them discussing with it and asking you how that should be handled.
Yeah, exactly. And I think these are great things for people to know. So that way when you start working with an agent, because I think a lot of, especially like first time buyers never done it before, they just kind of want to know too, like how can I help my agent help me a bit? So I think it really is useful.
And I think that buyers shouldn't be afraid to ask the realtor to explain something, how it's working, because sometimes buyers don't understand how a particular event in the transaction takes place. Like once this condition's removed or this happens or we ask for an extension or there's an amendment or this or that, and they maybe sometimes make assumptions or assume that something wasn't done right when that's not the case at all. So the realtor and the buyer, or the buyer shouldn't be afraid to say like, hey, I just need clarification on that. You're saying if we do this, then this happens. That makes no sense to me. Then we'd say, oh, yes, I can see how that's confusing. Like, let me explain. Being
like willing to ask questions when you're not really sure instead of kind of afraid to.
Yeah, and then it can lead to the buyer feeling like something wasn't done right, or like, you know, they're taking bits and pieces of what happened and going to their parents or their friends. And then their friends are trying to analyze it for them and break it apart without knowing the real,
which makes it messier.
So just be upfront with them and ask them the questions because it can get complicated for somebody that's not in the business. So making sure that they understand what's happening is key, and not being afraid to ask, because that's what we're here for. And some people will say like, sorry, I'm being annoying, I just have another question. I'm like, no, it's not annoying. I like answering this stuff, and I understand that you don't do this every day. So it's my job to help you through this. And
even to explain the same thing multiple times over, you know, like that's okay. Like the deposit, how it works or something like that. So
we want people to ask that. And also to understanding that time is of the essence with real estate. So if we need them to sign something by a certain time, like we actually have to for the actual contract, making sure that they're available as well to answer questions, because sometimes, you know, we'll have a question for the buyer about a property they're offering in on, and we need to know the answer kind of right away to get back to the other realtor in order to make it move forward. So, just, again, back to your availability thing. When are they available to discuss things? And some things maybe need to be over the phone too. If there's a lot of texting back and forth, not being afraid to say, I know we normally text, but can you call me on this one? Because it's really confusing me. And I think that's super helpful. So knowing what they want, having the financial stuff in order, not being afraid to ask questions if they're confused about something.
Maybe even like preferred way of signing paperwork too, if it's like electronically or in person.
Letting us know that, not just going with what we mentioned.
Normally do,
and also maybe giving us feedback on the properties they see. So sometimes I think when we show a buyer a house, if we ask if they didn't like it, what didn't you like about it? Sometimes I think they feel like we'll be offended for some reason and they don't want to tell us.
Yeah.
But we're not offended. Like it helps us. So if as much information they can give us as possible about why they don't like something is going to help us get them closer to what they do like.
So true, 100%.
So no one's offended or anything. We'll pass
Yeah.
the feedback on to the listing agent, so to help them, but it's not an offense thing. It's going to help us. So
yeah, it just helps kind of narrow down their likes and wants and stuff like that, which is perfect. Well, I think that's good. Let's do another one.
yeah.